You see Israel going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth into captivity, and the Most High dealing with us like, easy, like every like 20 and 7 and 80 and 30 years, is because the Most High knew for sure Israel is not developed spiritually. They do not have the correct amount of faith to keep my laws. Now, it's not an excuse, I'm still going to punish them and judge them, but the Most High had way more mercy and was showing us way more of his signage back then than basically what I'm trying to say that he's going to do today. And even when Christ had to finally say in the New Testament, look, y'all are wicked. You guys have no faith. You really do not believe in the righteousness that comes with believing in God. So this is the modern day parallel to what we're talking about in the history, and all to say that we're not really, with everything Christ has done for us today, we're not going to get the same type of response, and being like, show me like great wonders and these great signs. The Most High is like, nah, you need to just believe. You need to just believe and trust and read the books that I have to show you, and go from there. I might, give you something like in a dream or something regular to come to pass, but nothing too much like how we're going to deal with the angel dealt with Gideon. So go back to the Judges chapter 6 and read from verse 7, from 18.
This is Judges 6 and verse 18. Depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee, and bring forth my present, and set it before thee. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again.
So basically, Gideon's going to go make a sacrifice, get food for this man that he met. Jump down to verse 21.
Verse 21. Then the angel of the Lord put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh, and unleavened the cake, and unleavened cakes. And there arose up fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. Then the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight.
So that was the miracle. And if you don't understand what happened, literally, Gideon had prepared his flock, his food, and some unleavened bread on a rock before the messenger, the angel of the Most High, and he touched it with his staff, and then it came up and got consumed and burned. Because that's usually how that's how the Most High takes his offerings. You see the same thing with that in the temple as well, too. That's exactly what happened when the Levites would sacrifice the daily sacrifices, the sacrifices upon the altar. A fire would come, a holy fire, much like that Moses seen much like that Moses had seen in Midian in Egypt, comes up and takes those offerings. So that's what happened right here as well, too. And that was the sign. So that was enough for Gideon to believe at that point. Read verse 22.
And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, Gideon said, Alas, O Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. And the Lord said unto him, Peace be unto thee, fear not, and thou shalt not die.
So the angel disappears. And the Most High is now speaking to or messaging Gideon, much like Moses, through the fire and the burning bush. Now he's speaking to him as well, too. So the Most High's presence is there in that flame as it consumed that meal, that sacrifice to him. So that was a sign. That's pretty amazing. We, on a different tip, though, today, we have it's not more difficult, but, we have the faith in Christ that we need to ride through with. We're not going to get the same type of signs that, Christ said. You're not going to get those things. It's not going to be the same. Y'all have been through too much. Y'all have been through too much history for me to show myself when you have all this history to read in the books, and you should have been known by now. Now I'm just gonna it is what it is. I'm not gonna baby you like how Gideon, in a sense, got babied back then. This is our report to believe, though. So again, back to the story. Gideon believes that. Verse 25. You can read from verse 25.
And it came to pass that same night that the Lord said unto him, Take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it.
So again, this was part of the problem, part of the issue. We had altars and idols, Baal in particular, these images that represented some thought and idea of a power that people were drawn to and drawn to bow down and serve and worship. So now his instruction is go to your father's house and cut down that altar that you guys have within, your street, your block, and it's going to be the beginning of the sign of the deliverance from your enemies, spiritually and then physically. So do that. Read verse 26.
And build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of this rock in the ordered place, and take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night.
So he did it, just like a regular vandalism person, graffiti artist, in LA does. He does it by night, out of sight of the cops, out of, people that would rather be like, no, we like this thing. We like the altar of Baal and the Lord too, but no, we like this. And Gideon's like, nah, the instruction is to vandalize this, destroy it. Read on.
Verse 28, and when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it, and the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, who hath done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, had done this thing.
Yeah, someone's always looking. Someone's always out at night taking that jog, taking that midnight. I'm going to just, step out my house and seeing that it was Gideon. I saw him do it. He's the one that tagged it up. Broke it down. So Gideon is found out by his close family and friends. Read on.
Verse 30. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out thy son, that he may die, because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cut down the grove that was by it.
Man, crazy how our people just so devoted and loyal unto everything that the Most High said not to be devoted and loyal to. Let's kill this man.
To the point, where they'll take a man's life.
Goodness gracious. Read on.
Verse 31, and Joash said unto all that stood against him, will ye plead for Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death while it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar.
So his dad's like, oh, hold on. Look, I have some sense at least. Like, I know Baal, is not like the Most High Yahweh. He's not the same. The only reason why we have Baal as an idol is to involve with us is because it's an excuse. Again, all these idols of these other gods are an excuse for Israel to go beyond their laws and commandments that they have for themselves, basically transgress. So I'm pretty sure the altar allowed Israelites to do things that was unseemly and the Most High did not like custom-wise. But again, that's the only reason why. But they knew they was being wicked. Israel knew they was being wicked. Read on.
Verse 32. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar.
Saying, what is he going to do about it? My son is, I'm not blaming my son for nothing he did wrong. That's why they changed his name. Read verse 33.
Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered after him.
His whole city, basically. At that point, when his dad gave him the green light that it was cool, his whole city, that his hometown, basically, like, okay, yeah, we with you, Gideon. We with you. So Gideon was the dude in his hometown. Read on.
And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also was gathered after him. And he sent messengers unto Asher, and unto Zebulun, and unto Naphtali, and they came up to meet him.
Con. So he chooses 3 tribes, probably 3 tribes that are closest to him, that are not Manasseh, but again, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. He's like, I'm gonna need y'all help, not all Israel, I just want you tribes to help me out. They were probably cooler with those tribes than the rest of the tribes. Read on.
And Gideon said unto God, If thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said, behold, I would put a fleece of wool on the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hadst said.
So again, another instance of Gideon requiring, needing a sign to assure his faith. Again, letting you know the measure of faith in the minds and the spirit of Israel at this time. We always needed that reassuring sign, something materialistic in the physical world to be like, okay, I'm on the right path. Again, it's a little bit different today. I'm not going to say the Most High doesn't show us signs and stuff like that, but great wonders and such like that to like an individual, like as an individual, not like on a whole national scale. It's a little different today. But read on.
Behold, I will put it, verse 38, and it was so, for he rose up early on the morrow, and thrust the fleece together, and wringed the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water. And Gideon said unto God, Let not thine anger be hot against me, and I will speak but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground.
Now can you guys kind of see the parallel? Even Gideon had to tiptoe about what you call testing or even tempting the Most High. And that's why Christ was like, eventually, a wicked generation seeketh after a sign. And Gideon, after getting so many signs himself, he's like, look, don't be mad with me, but just show me one more, one more sign. So again, the Most High was definitely babying us at this point in time, more so than what he's doing to us nowadays. Again, we've had more than 1,000 years as a nation of people to grow, to grow and mature. It's unfortunate that in this generation, we actually forgot about who we were. That doesn't make stuff no better. But the point stands. Go to chapter 7 and verse 1.
Then Jerubbaal, who was Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early and pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them, by the hill of Morah in the valley.
All right, so I'm going to basically summarize this for you really quickly. I'll probably pull out some verses too, but Gideon is now with his host, his army, a lot of people too, because remember, he called like 3 tribes of Israel to go and do basically battle. So he's seen from the vantage point the Midianites and the Amalekites basically on the other side of the valley and such like that, the other side of the hill, and they're all there. Gideon's looking, and the Most High is basically saying now, hey Gideon, you've called too many people with you. You got all your people from your city. You got a lot of Manassites, your own tribe with you. And you got like 3 other tribes with you. I'm going to need you to cut it down, okay? I'm going to need you to cut down your numbers, and send the rest of the people home. So this is where the whole famous concept of the 300 warriors comes in. The 300 comes in basically because the Most High did not want Gideon to think that through his and the calling of the rest of the Israelites' own strength that the battle would be theirs like that. The Most High wanted Gideon to understand the battle is going to be of the Lord. So I'm going to basically cut your tens of thousands to only 300. And the way the Most High does it is through I guess you would say like a
A series of tests.
Yeah, yeah, a series of tests, like basically like, okay, if they do this, keep them away. If they do this, stay them with you. And that test was literally about how they was drinking water, whether they was standing up with it or they actually bend down to it, like drinking it like a dog. That was all the difference between how the Most High said, okay, make them all go home and keep those one with you. And the ones he kept with them eventually was just 300. So read verse 6, chapter 7, verse 6.
And the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men, but all the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water. And the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand, and let all the other people go, every man unto his place. So the people took victuals in their hand, and their trumpets, and he sent all the rest of Israel, every man unto his tent, and retained those 300 men, and the host of the Midian was beneath them in the valley.
So now the Most High is like, all right, cool. Way less numbers than you thought you needed, and they got, way more than you. But this is how I'm gonna make it go down. Read verse 9.
And it came to pass that the same night the Lord said unto him, arise, get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it unto thine hand.
So the Most High is telling Gideon, look, all right, I want you to go to their host now. Like, go, leave your camp and go look at their camp. And I'm going to make you become aware of some things while you're amongst their camp. Read on. Yeah, read down.
Verse 10, if thou fear to go down, go thou with Phurah, thy servant, down to the host. And thou shalt hear what they say, and afterwards shall thine hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then went he down with Phurah the servant unto the outside of the armed men that were in the host.
See, little context cues again, what I'm trying to say. The Most High said, if you're scared, take your servant Phurah with him. And guess who goes with Gideon? Phurah's with him. So again, man, even the mighty, valorous man of Israel of that time, Gideon, still had his doubts, just like Peter when he was first becoming a disciple, in the sea, and he started to stumble, and then eventually Peter became that great apostle that he needed to be after some time in practice. It's no different. Again, it's no different with us, but like, man, after Christ's death and everything like that, and the faith that we need to have to endure. We have to be better. At this point, we got to be better than Peter. We got to be better than Gideon. We can't have the same type of fear when the Most High said, don't fear nothing except for me. Just go and do what I asked you to do, So read on, verse 12.
And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. And when Gideon was come before, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came unto the tent, and smote it that it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay along.
So this was a man of part of the alliance with the Midianites and the Amalekites, that was going to go to war with Israel. And he's the Most High at this point in the time. He has sent them bad dreams. And part of that dream was, ironically, what they were doing to the land of Israel. They were occupying the land and taking up the resources for themselves and leaving Israel basically poor and oppressed and not having enough food or enough good food. So it's ironic that the dream that the Most High sent the enemies was the food that they were taking for themselves coming into their encampment and destroying them, because they were stealing that for no reason. Well, the reason was to be evil. So that was the dream that's now scaring the enemy, the alternate host. Read on.
Verse 14. And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hand hath God delivered Midian and all the hosts.
So they kind of were just like, they knew, yeah, something's bad is about to happen. We're getting that calm before the storm type feeling, premonitions. Stuff's not looking good for us going against the children of Israel right now. Read on.
Verse 15, And it was so when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel and said, Arise, for our Lord has delivered into your hand the host of Midian.
So that was a sign enough for Gideon to be like, yeah, I'm confident. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And again, the ironic way, ultimately, how Gideon did this was there wasn't too much fighting that was even really done. Gideon actually never really sent his army to them and even really laid a sword. It was all the Most High's doing, as we're going to see. Read on.
Verse 16, And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put a trumpet in every man's hand, with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitchers. And he said unto them, Look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall ye do. When I blow with a trumpet, I and all that are with me, then blow ye trumpets also on every side of all the camp, and say, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon.
So what do they call that? Psychological warfare is what basically was going on. Yelling, flashing lights at night with that, and all that's about to go down, and loud noises. So you got a whole bunch of just chaotic confusion happening as warfare right now against the enemy host. You can read verse 19.
So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch. And they had but newly set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers and held the lamps in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands to blow withal. And they cried, The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. And they stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the hosts ran and cried and fled. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the hosts. And the host fled to Beth Shittah in Zerath, and to the border of Abel-Meholath unto Tabath.
So basically the problem, really the logical solution was these Midianites and Amalekites and other nations had a so-called alliance, but when the Most High's fear came upon them, it became a situation where it was like every man for themselves, our people, for ourselves, forget what we're doing. And that was enough to cause division between the alliance of enemies that was supposed to go against Israel, all started fighting and killing themselves. And, it's not too hard to imagine, when you understand the power of the Most High, and then just the common sense and logic. These nations probably didn't really care too much for each other anyway. So when it comes to, just that acute amount of fear, of course they're going to, be confused and fight against each other, and Israel's not even involved. Like, oh, we're just standing back and watching. They're doing the work for us. The remaining ones that might be left over or that have ran away, we'll take care of them with the 300 that we have. They're in a weak state of mind, not a confident state of mind. That's how the Most High took this battle, again, not through the strength of hand of Gideon, but through the wisdom and the wits using Gideon, but of the Most High, the Most High seeing what it was with these other nations. So that happens, so basically that big host of alliance and armies, they get broken up and scattered. And to summarize, basically, Gideon eventually takes initially the princes of Midian, and slays them and kills them. And you know how it is. You kill the head, once you chop off the head, the whole body scrambles, or however that saying goes. So he gets the princes and does that. It eventually Gideon gets the kings of Midian as well too, whose names is Zalmunna and Zeba. So you can read that pretty much on your own. In chapter 8, I want to touch upon pretty much the aftermath of the Most High's war and, taking out the princes and the kings of the enemies of the Midianites that we were captive by. So start from chapter 8 and verse 22.
This is Judges chapter 8 and verse 22. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, Rule thou over us, both thou and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. And Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you.
So Gideon got built up enough at that point in time with enough signs and enough confidence and enough faith in the Most High to at least let them know, no, I'm at this point, it wasn't even me that did any of this. Like, this was all the Most High's wits and doing. I didn't even use the strength of my hand. So Gideon knows and is humbled, at least at that point, to let the people know, because the common people, Israel, like to hero worship. That's a form of idolatry in itself too. And that's what they was trying to do for Gideon. And Gideon's like, nah, give all the glory to the Most High. He's gonna be the king over y'all. I just did, his doing and his bidding. Just be solid with the Most High. That's about it. We're in the land. We have the Levites and the priests. Just be solid unto the Most High now. So that's what he's letting them know. But, again, Israel and Gideon himself too, still spiritually immature in that regard. This is what happens. Read verse 24.
And Gideon said unto them, I would desire a request of you, that ye would give me every man the earrings of his prey, for they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites.
So again, to prove the fact that there was more than just the Amalekites and the Midianites in that host of the battle that they just kind of went over. There were Ishmaelites as well too, and they took the spoils, and some of those spoils were gold earrings. Read on.
Verse 25, and they answered, We will willingly give them. And they spread a garment and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey.
So Gideon knows what's up. He's like, look, give all the glory to the Most High God, but he's still kind of like, man, I know you guys have honor for me, so let me just, let me glean some of that glory for myself too. Let me get some of that honor, let's do, because I was chosen, Read on. So they give him the gold earrings.
Verse 26, and the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside ornaments and collars and purple raiments that was on the kings of Midian, and beside their chains that were about their camels' necks. Mm-hmm. And Gideon made an ephod thereof and put it in his city, even in Ophrah.
So Gideon, now the reason why he asked that stuff is basically Gideon's like, okay, you know what? In my city now, I'm gonna have a little bit of glory for myself. I'm gonna make a memorial. An image memorial, so that people know that it was me, the Most High, used to do this. So even still, Gideon was kind of when we read about what happened, you can see Gideon's heart was not all the way fully there to the Most High and to the Lord. He still wanted that credibility due to himself, like that was lingering still within him. Again, showing that immaturity in the spirit on our people. Read on in that verse.
And all Israel went thither a whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house.
And I want to bring out the wisdom with that, with the problem with dumb people and memorials sometime. Go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and read verse 16. So
this is Wisdom of Solomon. Go ahead.
No, you go.
This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and verse 16. Thus in process of a time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
Khan. So that's exactly what's going down with Israel's hard-headedness and spiritual immaturity, and always needing something in the flesh, a sign to assure their faith in. I mean, at this part, they're like in whatever, assure our faith in whatever. But to initially to assure their faith in the Most High. Read verse 18 through 20 in that same chapter.
Verse 18. Also, the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition. For he, peradventure, willing to please one in authority, forced all his skill to make the resemblance of the best fashion. And so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god, which a little before was but honored. And so the multitude, that was verse 20.
Okay, Khan. So yeah, basically that Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14 explains how the nature of spiritual fornication through idols or images came about. And again, it all deals with the mind state of Israel being stuck in this world and not in the spirit and faith in the Most High God. So again, the Most High, it was hard to have the Most High in the minds of the people. That's why we always needed someone, something, some sign to look up to, which is again why when all these other idols of other gods came in that we've seen, that's how we easily was like, oh, fall astray, because we was not faithful. We was not mature. Our people was not spiritually mature to deal with the faithfulness that came with the Most High at that time, and even again today too. Read on in Judges chapter 8 and verse 28 though.
Thus Midian was subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. And Jerubbaal the son of Joash went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, for he had many wives. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. And Gideon the son of Joash died in a good old age, and was buried in the sepulchre of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abizarites,
his hometown. Verse 33.
And it came to pass, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again and went a whoring after Baalim, and made Baal-berith their god.
See what I'm talking about? So as soon as Gideon died, who was more than likely the one being like, stay on point. Stay on point. Yeah, don't do that, Okay, maybe give me a little bit of, glorification through his memorial. But as soon as he died, like immediately, the gods and idols of the other nation overtook the minds of Israel. So again, understanding, we were infantile. We were very infantile spiritually back then and in this time. And again, that's why the Most High had the type of mercy that he had. Again, we don't have that same type of mercy necessarily today, being 400 years in captivity in America. Read on, verse 34, I mean.
And the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their God, who had delivered them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side.
Psalms 40:8 real quick. That's important, where it says they remembered not. This is the opposite of how King David, operated to be.
This is Psalms chapter 40 and verse 8. I delight to do thy will, O my God. Yea, the law is within my heart.
The law was within David's heart. The law was not within the children of Israel's heart. The only law that the children of Israel was following at that time was whatever they could see in front of their face. That was it. And whatever they could see in front of their face that was desirable enough for the flesh, the works of their flesh, of their body, that always took us out. The lusts of the flesh always seemed to take us out when we did not have somebody, a judge at that time, to keep us on track and be like, don't do that, stop. you know, and that's what happened when Gideon died. Um, verse 35.
Neither showed they kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had showed his unto Israel.
And we're going to read about Abimelech right now, too, chapter 9.
This is Judges chapter 9 and verse 1. And Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem unto his mother's brethren, and continued and communed with them, and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, Speak, I pray you, in the ear of all the men of Shechem, whether is better for you, either that all the sons of Jerubbaal, which are 70 persons, reign over you, or that one reign over you. Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh.
Khan. So this is literally the son, one of many, actually, one of many sons, probably one of the unrighteous ones, obviously one of the unrighteous sons that definitely did not take heed to anything that Gideon was doing and teaching, and he was one of those wicked sons, and now he's going to his family, his brothers rather, of his mom, because again, Gideon, if y'all didn't know, Israelites can have multiple wives, and when you have multiple wives, generally the kids that you have with that particular wife, that house, you know, those kids are going to be closer with each other than the kids that you're going to have with, you know, a wife of another house. You know, they're going to cleave to mommy, they're going to cleave to mom and you, your dad as father, but they're going to cleave to mom and her brothers better than a different mom and their brothers. You know, y'all know you're related, but you know, it's basic classical grouping. So this man Abimelech is like, look, to his mom's kids, brothers, hey, let's kill our other half brothers, you know, our father's sons, and you know, let's just do things for ourselves, but put me as king. So this man Abimelech, clearly living in the flesh. Matter of fact, go to Ecclesiastes 6 and 2. I want to just explain that real quick. So this man Abimelech having, there's a scripture in 1 John talks about, you know, the desire, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. The pride of life is having that honor and that, you know, that glory due to you, so that and love that people have for you. That's what Abimelech wanted. That was his stumbling block and his fall to lead to the sin that he's about to do in this chapter.
Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and verse 2. A man to whom God had given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth nothing for his soul of all that he desireth, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease.
So basically talking about when God gives you that honor and that wealth and that power, those are one of the things that ultimately is vanity, the pride of life, you know, having that love and that honor from men that you take out of proportion. So that was Abimelech's problem and why he decided to do this. Read on, and Judges 9 and 3.
And his mother's brethren spake of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem, and all these words, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he is our brother.
Yep, you know, birds of a feather flock together. You know, that's all that purely flesh-driven, you know, way, not spiritual at all. Otherwise, they would not have agreed. Read on.
And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-berith, wherewith Abimelech hired vain and light persons which followed him. Mm-hmm. And he went into his father's house at Ophrah, and slew his brethren, the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons upon one stone.
That's 70 people that he basically, if you're slaying 70 people on one stone, think about all that occult, evil, Illuminati shit. He basically was sacrificing these people. And a man like this do that, you definitely know he wasn't serving the Most High God. He was definitely doing that. Anytime that you kill somebody upon a single altar, that's a sacrifice to another God. And again, that's the problem that Israelites was having and the other nations have been having for a long time. So, man, this dude was being wicked. But you know he's going to get judged for that. He's going to get judged for that eventually too. But listen how it said too in verse 4. It said he hired light persons. Again, people that had no Holy Spirit in them, just purely driven by the works of the flesh. That's what was happening with these people. Verse 5.
And he went unto his father's house at Ophrah and slew his brethren.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, verse 6. We just read that.
Let me finish for 5.
Okay.
Being 70 persons upon one stone, notwithstanding yet Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself.
All but one of Gideon's other sons got away from the slaughter. Read on.
And all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the house of Millo went and made Abimelech king by the plain of the pillar that was in Shechem.
So after seeing this great this great thing that Abimelech did, all the people are now just in awestruck, and silly Israel, you know, awestruck by the slightest bit of power shown, are just, yeah, we're for you. You know, we're for you. Look at all that power you have. You're clearly a man to be honored and adorned and to be seen as some type of God or a messenger of some other God. Let's follow you. That's all the people of Shechem. You know, that's like a whole region, basically. Read on.
Verse 7. Judges 9 and verse 7. And when they told it to Jotham, he went and stood in the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice and cried and said unto them, Hearken unto me, ye men of Shechem, that God may hearken unto you.
So now it's crazy because this man of Gideon, he starts to speak to the whole city of Shechem in a parable. So you know this was one of the good ones. This is one of the good sons. And that's probably why the Most High allowed him to survive, because he was actually honoring what little that Gideon, not little, what good that Gideon was teaching him. That's why he survived this, because he's throwing God's name out there, and he allowed him to survive. But he begins to make a parable, and that parable is dealing with a whole bunch of different types of trees, from an olive tree to a vine, a grapevine, all the way down to what's called a bramble tree, which if you look up what a bramble tree is, basically like a tree that doesn't have no fruits, and like I'm pretty sure it's one of those like scratchy trees that like if you run into it, like you just get scratched up. Like it's one of those wild, you know, thorn bushes, just like it's not pleasing for man. So Jotham starts giving a whole parable about the history basically of his family and the judges of Israel, you know, and the good ones. And each of the good trees, from the olive tree to the vine to, I think it was even one more.
Fig tree.
And the fig, yes. Those 3 trees, those were good trees. And those trees were like, basically, those trees was like, I'm not going to be a king over to the rest of the trees. You know, those were good trees. But the last tree was an evil tree. And we're going to read about that tree, because that tree represented a prophecy against Abimelech. So go to Judges chapter 9.
14.
Is it? 13. Yeah, verse 14.
Then said all the trees unto the bramble, Come thou and reign over us. And the bramble said unto the trees, If in truth ye anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow, and if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon.
And the people were the cedars of Lebanon. So it was like, there's no choice, you know. Hey, if you want me, yeah, come through. But if you don't want me, I'm gonna kill you anyway. I'm gonna get you anyway. I'm unforgivable. So that was Abimelech. It was his way or the highway. And you see what he did to all his brothers. So you can only imagine what he did to the city with the authority and the power from his father Gideon passed down to him as a prince. Read on.
Verse 16. Now therefore, if ye have done truly and sincerely in that ye have made Abimelech king, and if ye have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done unto him according to the deserving of his hands. For my father fought for you, and adventured his life far, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian. And ye are risen up against my father's house this day, and have slain his sons, 70 persons upon one stone, and have made Abimelech the son of his maidservant king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If ye then have dealt truly and sincerely with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice ye in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem and the house of Millo, and let fire come out of the men of Shechem and from the house of Millo, and devour Abimelech. And Jotham ran away and fled and went to Beer and dwelt there for fear of Abimelech his brother.
And that was a prophecy that did come to pass as we read this next chapter, or rather next section, that Jotham prophesied against the people of Shechem. He's like, look, if y'all truly have done a righteous thing in making him and allowing him to kill the brethren, the family of Gideon, who we wanted to be king over us, if that was truly the right thing you did, then let it be so. But if that was an evil thing, guess what? Y'all going to be at odds with each other. Even though y'all in alliance right now, you eventually are going to turn on each other. And that was the prophecy that Jotham had brought upon the people. And then he ran away because the Most High had grace on him. And, he was clearly a servant of the Lord, Yahweh. And as we see, this is what happened. Sometime later, like in the future. Verse 22.
When Abimelech had reigned three years over Israel, then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem. And the men of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech.
So, I'm going to just say right here, so we don't have to read everything rest in this chapter. Excuse me. That's that prophecy. Oh, God. That prophecy of Jotham did come to pass. It did say that the Most High sent, because of the wicked doings of Abimelech and of the people of the city that were conceding unto it, he made an evil spirit between those two, basically between the house of Abimelech, son of Gideon, and the rest of the people of Shechem. Now there's conflict between them. That conflict becomes illustrated when you read everything else, from verse 24 down to 50. I'm not going to read that for you guys. You guys can definitely read that on your own if you want to know the details of that. But it is there, and it shows you how how that evil spirit intention came to fruition and color between the two parties, between the house of Abimelech and the men of Shechem, in order to have judgment and vengeance for the evils that both sides did, working together and then eventually working against each other. So the aftermath of that is verse 56 in chapter 9.
Verse 56, thus God rendered the wickedness of Abimelech, which he did unto his father in slaying his 70 brethren, and all the evil of the men of Shechem did God render upon their heads, and upon them came the curse of Jotham, the son of Jerubbaal.
The curse of Jotham, or the prophecy of Jotham, either way, it came to pass in righteousness. So again, you guys can read all that previous stuff about how the men of the city eventually ended up dying, how Abimelech himself ended up dying. But now we'll go to chapter 10, and from verse 1.
This is chapter 10 verse 1. And after Abimelech there arose to defend Israel Tula, the son of Puah, the son of Dodo, a man of Issachar, and he dwelt in Shemaron, in Mount Ephraim. And he judged Israel 23 years, and died, and was buried in Shamir.
Peace, good, a good judge, 20 years, peace, he dies. What happens next?
And verse 3, and after him arose Jair, a Gileadite, and judged Israel 22 years, and he had 30 sons that rode on 30 ass colts, and they had 30 cities, which are called Havoth Jair, unto this day, which are the land of Gilead. And Jair died and was buried in Canaan.
So again, another 20 years. Good, perfect. Israel on point. Jair doing what he needed to do to keep Israel, like sheep in the sheepfold on the path. Good job. What happened next?
Verse 6. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and served Baalim and Ashtaroth, and the gods of Syria, and the gods of Zidon, and the gods of Moab, and the gods of the children of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines, and forsook the Lord, and served not him.
So something happened. Something happened after, obviously, that man Jair died. There was not a good enough leader to keep the rest of the common people of Israel on point. Again, go to 1 John 2 and 16. I want you guys to understand what we're dealing with when we're dealing with our own selves, or if you're a leader, your own self and people that you're leading. The reason why you're a leader anyway is because the Most High has put something within you to lead people, because they can't lead themselves. And this is the problem, and this is the reason why people can't lead themselves for the most part. 1 John 2 and 16.
1 John 2 and 16, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not the Father, but is of the world.
That's literally it. Those three things broken down and wisdom in your own life, and even people that you may happen to be leading, if you're in that position. It's the lust of the flesh, so the natural things that our body wants, whether things happen in your life to where those desires got messed up and not right in order, or the lust of the eyes, things that you see out in the world and new things, and the pride of life, that want of basically the want to be a god yourself. That's the pride of life. When you want people to love you so much that anything that you do, even if it transgresses God's commandment, you just want people to love you anyway, and them to be okay with it, and for you to keep doing it. That's the pride of life. And that's what our people always end up having an issue balancing out, balancing out. And why, in this instance, we would so easily fall into the same bad habits, Read on. And Judges.
Judges 10 and verse 7. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines and into the hands of the children of Ammon. And that year they vexed and oppressed the children of Israel 18 years, all the children of Israel that were on the other side of that were on the other side of Jordan in the land of the Amorites. That were on the other side of Jordan in the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead. Moreover, the children of Ammon passed over Jordan to flight also against Judah and against Benjamin and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was sore distressed. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, saying, we have sinned against thee, both because we have forsaken our God and also served Baalim.
So it just takes that right amount of outside pain, when the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is finally cut down, because, the other nations are now up in our face and slapping us around. All of a sudden, now we remember, oh, shoot, yeah, we need our God. We need our God back right now. So now we begin that repentance to go find our God. And initially, this is what he tells us, like, oh, look who's back. The cat, what do they say? Look what the cat dragged in? Or look what the dog dragged in? Cat. Yeah, read on.
Verse 10. Verse 11. And the Lord said unto the children of Israel, did not I deliver you from the Egyptians, and from the Amorites, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines, the Zidonians also, and the Amalekites, and the Masonites did oppress you, And ye cried to me, and I delivered you out of their hand. Yet ye have forsaken me and served other gods. Wherefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry unto the gods which ye have chosen. Let them deliver you in time of your tribulation.
So that was the initial response to God. That's what I meant when I said, look what the cat dragged in. Where you're like, oh, hell no. What? How many times? How many captivities? Not even to mention he did mention the Amalekites, but the Midianites. He didn't even mention the Midianites. He's like, no, you figure it out. Go back outside. But then this is Israel's response. Read on.
Verse 15, and the children of Israel said unto the Lord, we have sinned. Do thou unto us whatsoever seemeth good unto thee. Deliver us only, we pray thee, this day. And they put away the strange gods from among them, and served the Lord, and his soul was grieved for the misery of Israel.
So do you see what it said there? You know, even though the Most High was stern in what he said, Israel was basically like, no, like no. They turned up the volume of the just, I don't even know what to call it. They were just bawling, like no, screaming outside in the rain type deal. And so that grieved the soul of the Most High. He said, he's just like, oh my goodness. And then he's like, come in. And after seeing what they did by putting those idols away, he's just like, all right, come in. Yeah, read on.
Verse 17, then the children of Ammon were gathered together and encamped in Gilead. And the children of Israel assembled themselves together and encamped in Mizpah. And the people and princes of Gilead said one to another, what man is he that will begin to fight against the children of Ammon? He shall be head over the inhabitants of Gilead.
And this is the segue into the next chapter, which I am not reading for y'all, and the story of Jephthah. Actually, one of my favorite judges in the book of Judges that definitely does not get talked about enough, but definitely in my past 7 years in history has been an inspiration for myself. But we're not going to get into that. But I hope that tonight's lesson was understanding for all, just to kind of see, because we all know and we read these stories and we talk about it all the time, but I hope that the precepts involved and some wisdom that I can give with it helps you to understand the real nature of the battle that we're fighting with and the spiritual maturity that we don't really have an excuse for anymore. You know, we're not the same as our forefathers back then, you know, in that regards. I mean, we are. It's a touchy way to talk about it, but we're supposed to do better. We're supposed to be much better that, especially with Christ. You know, again, we're not getting the same type of leniency that we was getting back then as what we're receiving today. So hopefully you guys can get what we're talking about and what we're saying with that. Stay blessed, stay right, stay in the spirit, you know, stay prayed up, stay with Christ. And with that, I'm going to say good night.
Shalom, Israel.
Shalom, not shalom.